Good to have you. Tension is rising again between the US and Iran, with reports on attacks on commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The UK Maritime Trade Operations Office says the Revolutionary Guard has fired at oil tankers in the waterway. One of them is believed to be carrying at least 2 million barrels of Iraqi oil. It comes after Iran reimposed restrictions on shipping less than 24 hours after declaring the strait open. Tehran says it's closing the strait because the US refuses to lift its blockade on Iranian ports.
Because the United States once again returned to the same breaches of commitments, it returned to the same hostility and malice it had shown before. And naturally, the response to this behavior is the action that our Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters has now announced. The strait is a strait under the full and intelligent control of the Islamic Republic of Iran. At any time, according to circumstances, it will make use of this strait. The Americans must accept that this is not a place for bullying, not a place for arrogance. It is a place for humility, a place for courtesy and respect towards the Iranian nation. Here they must know that they must greet the great nation of Iran, show respect, act politely, and present their requests.
But President Donald Trump says the US won't be swayed by what he called blackmail from Iran.
Very good conversations going on. It's working out very well. They got a little cute, as they have been doing for 47 years. Nobody ever took them on. We took them on. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no leaders. They have no nothing. Actually, their leaders are, it is regime change. You call that enforced regime change. But we're talking to them. They wanted to close up the strait again, as they've been doing for years. And they can't blackmail us.
Well, in a moment, we'll hear from our correspondents in Tehran, Washington and Dubai. But first, let's take a look at how the flow of maritime traffic in the region has changed in the past 24 hours. This is a time-lapse of what the Strait of Hormuz looked like on Friday in the hours after Iran announced the waterway was open. There was a flurry of activity as boats moved into position to cross. And this is what it looks like now. Vessels are once again steering clear of the passage. The red dots and arrows you can see are oil tankers. Those in green are other commercial vessels, including cargo ships. Iranian forces have been warning ships to turn back. One vessel shared the message it received.
Iranian Navy, this is Bhagya Lakshmi. Go ahead, sir. I read you loud and clear.
Good evening, sir. This is Iranian Navy. The strait is blocked and passed from that is forbidden. And there is no any permission for you to use from the strait. Your order to go back to departure immediately. Your order to go back to departure immediately. You get my message?
Okay, copied your message. I will turn back, and there is no permission to transit Hormuz. That's correct, sir?
Yes, sir. There is no permission for you. Your order to go back. Wait, get permission.
Okay, wait for the permission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Back to 16 out.
Zain Masravi is live in Dubai. Zain, judging by that announcement that we just heard there, the Iranians aren't messing around with their warning. I mean, reports of vessels making U-turns in the strait. So how much of a no-go zone has the waterway now become?
Well, exactly where it was weeks into the war when Iran began to use the Strait of Hormuz as the pressure point, as it is doing again now. It is effectively completely blocked. There is no traffic. And what we understand is that Iran is saying that it will remain this way as long as the U.S. blockade remains in place. Let's look at a statement that was released earlier this evening by the IRGC. They said that several vessels did pass through the strait, but due to the violation of ceasefire conditions, the American enemy did not lift a naval blockade of Iranian vessels in ports. Therefore, from this evening, the Strait of Hormuz will be closed until this blockade is lifted. The message goes on to say, we warn that no vessel should move from its anchorage in the Gulf, in the Sea of Oman, and approaching the Strait of Hormuz will be considered cooperation with the enemy, and the violating vessel will be targeted. And that is what we have seen throughout the course of the day. At least 3 different ships off the course of Oman, one experiencing a splashdown of some kind of projectile near it, 2 others being directly fired on, reportedly by the IRGC Navy, and in one case being confronted by 2 speedboats of the IRGC. So what we are seeing here is not just a blockade through radio chatter or through the threat of the use of force, but we are seeing the use of direct force as Iran's Navy continues to heavily police the Strait of Hormuz, continuing to use it as this pressure point.
All right, Zain, let's bring in Ali Hashim. He's in Tehran for us live. Ali, so what is Tehran's official justification for all of this, for this reversal, of course? How are they defining their new maritime rules to the international community who are wondering what's going on?
Well, restoring the old limitations on the passage from the Strait of Hormuz is kind of explained by the Iranians as a retaliation to the United States blockade of Iranian ports. They say they've announced yesterday that they're lifting the limitations while keeping authorization of Iranian authorities to ships to pass through the strait. But the United States, President Trump himself said that the blockade will continue. So for Iran, this is part of the deal. The deal was not met by the Americans, so they're not going to implement their part of the deal. Aside from that, the issue of lifting the limitations on passage from the Strait of Hormuz was faced with a lot of objection here within the politician layer and also among some of the people. And we've seen yesterday how much this had its implication. We saw that in social media. We saw that in several stances from politicians. So for the Iranians, they're still projecting power through the leverage of on the Strait of Hormuz, especially that in the past, this same issue of the strait was mentioned by the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. And today we saw also several Iranian officials stressing on the importance of keeping the strait under the Iranian authority.
All right, Ali, let's bring in some other developments as well, because Iran's state television has released a statement attributed to the Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, hasn't been heard from or seen in public since he was appointed after his father's killing. Well, the statement says the army is now, as in the two previously imposed wars, defending the waters, soil and flag to which it belongs. Just as its drones strike the American and Zionist criminals like lightning, the Navy stands ready to make its enemies taste the bitterness of new defeat. So, Ali, with a statement like that, where does it leave the prospect of diplomacy?
Well, it's clear the leader is also